Going back to my agenda here. Moving on, discussion items. Mr. Miley, school improvement plan for the middle school. They were told they had an hour and a half.
Board Chair, School Board, thank you very much, Dr. Kiergaard. We're excited. This has been a process dating back to last spring. You probably have heard the elementaries go through their school improvement plan. So Mr. Doc Bakken, he is our science chair, and he was instrumental in helping with that grant with General. So he is my tech guru, and he's going to make sure we stay on the time frame. Just to take you through this a little bit, what I'll do is I'll start with the timeline, the calendar. We're going to go through some of the things the staff, as a collaboration, went through. And that was what was so important about this, or the whole process of a school improvement plan, is making sure we get buy-in from everybody, so everybody's heard, and then we can take input and move on from there. It started back in the spring, summer, with Dr. Kiergaard, administrative cabinet meeting, just talking about moving forward with the plan. And then it led to Ms. Cheryl Nash, who is our district coordinator for teacher learning, who was just instrumental in this whole process. She's done this before, and she's helped the middle school start up at our very first workshop in the fall with our quality needs assessment. And out of that, we had 43 staff members that took that and gave input with that. With that information, August led to October. We looked through the critical areas as a staff we need to address. We were able to do that with our department chairs, our leadership team, and that consists of at least 14 different people at every step along the way. Once we were able to address those needs, we had a data retreat with Ms. Nash and Mr. Byard in November, and we divided the groups up into looking at both math and reading. So those would be the areas that we emphasize, much like the elementary, like the high school too. From that, we discussed our finding, our hypothesis, and some of the goals that we wanted to look at moving forward. That led into November 14th. Staff as a whole, that was our early out workshop day, looked at all the findings that the leadership team went through and kind of answered the questions: why do we do this? What are some areas that we can improve? What are some trends that you see? So as a group, we broke up into both math and reading to look at that and come up with those hypotheses there. Then in January, we met again, the improvement team, and what we addressed there was root cause analysis. We need to have the focus of what are some of the areas that we need to address, how can we develop, how can we improve as a middle school staff of helping our students in both math and reading. With finishing that up in January, we met on March 7th, last Thursday. Our comprehensive needs assessment team came up with a summary, and that led us here today. So basically had one day of school time turnaround to get this all ready for you. So we'll walk you through it here a little bit. MCA math scores and the proficiency scores. I know there's a lot of slides. I'm going to go through as fast as I can here. We took a look at the kids that were coming to us, which was the 5th graders at both buildings, and we went all the way through the students that were leaving us, which are currently 9th graders. So as you look at that, in both 11, 12, what we wanted to take a look at there was how do we do it from all subcategories, all white, Hispanic, black, EL, special ed, and free and reduced. So when we did this is something that's new. I don't know if it's as new to the elementary, but it was new to the middle school, and we actually broke the data down into each separate group. Going on to the next slide there, 6th graders. And if you're looking at this and you have a chance to look at the graphs that we sent you, the district will be great, and what's going to show is, as a district, and I think it showed up on our AYP improvement scores and how we did last year, of being able to reach safe harbor. Not that we passed everybody, not that every student was proficient, but we showed improvement in every category in every subgroup. And that was the first time that's ever happened at the middle school. In 8th grade had an exceptional year, and I'll be addressing some of that, and in some cases we surpassed the state averages there. So
back up one. Okay. Thank you.
You bet. 8th grade there. So what was our findings? What did we see? So as we broke it down, our district growth outperformed state growth. When we look at, we had a year's worth of learning, did they grow? And I guess that's what we shoot for each and every year. 2011-12, all subgroups increased in all grade levels. Free and reduced ELL special ed showed the largest achievement gaps, and that's something you're going to hear over and over of areas that we need to address. And what was really neat, in our 8th grade Hispanic subgroups, they scored above the state average. That was really neat to see. In our 6th grade Black subgroup, gained 21%, which exceed the state also too. So in certain categories, within certain grade levels, we did exceed. And when we go through, we have to answer the question, this is because and then we find out with our hypothesis. In some of the areas that we're struggling in, and we were meeting after school within our ELL special ed department, is we need to find a common core curriculum within those areas. And right now, we're kind of piecemealing the curriculum together. There's not a set curriculum out there in both the ELL special ed and what we call fundamental classes. Students that are not performing at grade level, especially with our math students, so we can meet those state standards. We found that not all students were exposed to all the standards. You know, in our thinking was, can students handle this? Are they up for it? I mean, you've seen some of the standards, you've seen the math tests and stuff, they're very difficult. But if they never get a shot at it, they never get to see it, they never get to at least try it, what's the chances of ever passing that? So as a staff, this is some of the things that we found, this is some of the things we're addressing. We have reduced our levels of ELL and other service staff areas. It is what it is in our population. We are growing. We've heard that from Ms. Harrington. There's certain subgroups that are growing larger than others, and we need to make sure we address that proportionally with staffing. In the past, we used to just call it staffing pattern adjustments. We've increased our learning time and our flex schedule. That's why we think some of our test scores have improved. When we went to the every other day format of 90 minutes one day for math, 45 the next day, we believe that has had a positive impact. And I think our department chairs are here in communications and math, they'll attest to that. I think some of the high school staff will also attest to that. Our students are coming better prepared. Substrand data, we broke down within every group, each of those years, from 11, 12. A lot of fancy colors here. As you look at it, we'll break down into just a particular group. This is geometry and measurement within a subgroup. So as we take those tests, as we prepare for them, there are certain areas that we got to emphasize. And if you look in this subcategory, we have 5th grade in blue all the way to 8th grade in the green. We're close to the state in some of those. Especially, I guess, if you look at our 8th grade, but it shows us where we need to improve. And that's where Mrs. Powers, our department chair, will address with her department, and hence, then we'll share with the entire staff. Number and order, another subcategory. You'll see here, there's certain areas where we'll always be the second, the district. The first one, darker color, will be the state. There are certain categories where we outperform the state with that. So we know in some strands we do very well, and number and order is one of those. Again, the algebra part of it, moving forward. And it kind of ties into what Mrs. Mathiasen said. At the high school level, and I read Mr. Schmitz's report in there is going to be a higher level of commitment to graduation coming up. And one of those is algebra. So in our building, we have to prepare kids to the best we can to the highest level of algebra possible. And with that, you can see our scores are fairly close, and we outperform in some of the substrands within that. Would we like to be higher? Absolutely. So we'll have to develop those strategies of how we can improve. But if you look at all the way from free and reduced, we outperformed. The white students, the Hispanic students, they all outperform the state, which is good to see. Data analysis, the 4 subgroup, looking at that, very comparable. Once again, looking at just 8th grade here, we're right there with the state averages in 1, 2, 2 categories and 0.4 away from another one. But this gives us an idea of what we need to look at, what we need to focus on for improving our students and getting the right tools, the right instruction into their hands so they can do their very best on these tests. Our findings, when we broke up into a group, not just our leadership team, but the entire staff, what we found within our sub-strand findings was 8th grade closed the gap in all the strands of the white, Hispanic, free and reduced, and special ed groups. ELL and special ed were lower performing in those strands. That's an area where we're going to focus on. Geometry and measurement, it's got to become a focus. That was our lowest proficient substrand. And numbers in the operation is a key substrand because it was linked to the others. And we have, with Mrs. Powers and the department, they look at that, they analyze it, and then hopefully we can help in those areas for students. I mean, when you get the data, you can see what areas they're strong or weak in. Our hypothesis, this is because we realize that students do not have a good grasp of the number sets. It just is what it is. So not only do we need to focus on that within math department, but the entire departments within the school. We have to have a constant curriculum for below grade level ELL and special ed students. Once again, we used the word piecemealing before. We need to find something that can address that with them. You hear constantly about RTI, the response intervention. That'll be something that we're going to be looking at. I talked about earlier, we don't expose all the special ed students to all the standards. That'll be something that we're addressing. And our reason for doing well, in algebra, we focus intently on that. And I think that's why sometimes you'll see the larger gains within that area. When we went through this, much as we did as a board and administration team, we were to put areas where we thought that was very important and put stickers on that and emphasize what we felt individually, what we could focus on. And one of the areas was curriculum that meets all standards, filling the intervention, coming up with gaps, how are we going to fill that? Need to know across the disciplines. The other disciplines need to know what math strategies and what math standards we have so they can also help with our students in those areas. Primary concerns, we're going to focus and expose all students to all standards. We've got to focus on the quality, consistent curriculum to meet those standards. Students comprehend the basic number sense. That's just got to be something throughout the entire school. Doesn't matter what level, whether it's fundamental all the way up to algebra. And a common language. And people will say that, parents will say that, staff will say that. We just need to have a common understanding for all the disciplines so everybody's talking the same language, so they're hearing the same thing. And we'll rely heavily on our math department, and hopefully you're going to hear about an instructional specialist or instructional coach, as you hear, much like, I guess, Roosevelt and Kennedy have right now. Our fishbone activity, that's where you look at the problems and how do you address it. What are things in this that we can control? There's certain things we just can't. So we have to have a focus on what areas do we feel that we can address, and just the exercise help the team identify those significant factors of what we're going to address within the math area here. And this leads us to our comprehensive school improvement plan within the math area, and we do have 2 plans with that. Just need to do a little switch over here. Each one of our plans, 2 in math, 2 in reading, will have the same language for the first couple pages. The first page talks about the people involved. The second one talks about what were the strengths and challenges as a group that we experienced. How are we going to find evidence that we can work or improve in all those areas? And the last one, what priority do we need to do with the data that we've now looked at? So you can see the strengths at the middle school is how we work together to impact kids. I'm just going to paraphrase this. Merge of priorities was increased communications between all grade levels. So you're talking both horizontal, vertical, within our departments, and to make sure we get families involved and improve the way that staff analyzes, and especially in the way of formative assessments. Out of our data retreat, what we learned is our concerns in math, exposing all those standards to the students, the quality and consistent curriculum, the common language, and the support that we're going to hopefully get to address some of these areas, and the need for all students to have the basic number sense. And as a summary, priority needs revealed that a unified staff understanding of all the reading and math standards is necessary. The intervention is to analyze and evaluate the data to create an action plan for improving both areas. So within our school action plan with math, our first strategy was the use, which one did you have up here? Okay.
This is number 1.
Okay.
Language and curricular.
Yeah. Was incorporate math and language in all curricular areas. And in that, we've come up with strategies before, but what we did, I guess, was follow the format of the matrix of what do we plan, do, study, and act on. And within that, you'll see the plan of what's our ideas, who's accountable for that, what's the timeline for that, how do we know if it's working or not working. And that's, I guess, the most important part about this is not just saying what we're going to do, to follow it up, to have the data, to reanalyze it, and to maybe come back and address some of those areas. And this is new for us. So as we plan, and as Cheryl's walking us through, as Dr. Kiergaard, we've met, these are some things that as a middle school, we know we need to work on things, we know we need help within the math area, as we do in the reading, but now we just need to focus in and have those PLCs, to work with the data, to analyze the data, to get it in the staff hands, and just to come up with a common language for everybody. Our second one will have the use of an instructional coach to provide professional development to facilitate across all these curriculums. This was new to Willmar, I think, last year. I think Mr. Beyer and some other staff at Roosevelt who does that. I'm not sure who that is, Cheryl, but that is something that we saw on a school visit in Austin, Minnesota, within their middle school. Their instructional coach is part of their PLCs, work with administration, and it's something very similar to what our elementaries currently have. Our action plans for that, this is going to be someone who's going to be integral to our school. They're going to have to help with the standards, the common language, the vocabulary list. It's something that we're all accountable for, math department, administration, but yet we're going to start working on some things right away this year, and this will carry in throughout the summer and into the fall of the 2013-14 school year. So if you understand kind of the process, how it worked, what was really beneficial for the elementaries is they had the summertime to work together on it. We've had to basically pull subs together, work as we could during the school day. Mike put this together, a lot of this over the weekend stuff, so a lot of the stuff we've been able to do during the year, where some of that time at the end of the year with the staff development will be very beneficial for that. So I can tell you that 2-hour day that we had, we stayed late. It was just what it was. Staff was into it. We were talking about all the findings, our hypothesis, we're going to analyze, and they were wonderful. They knew we needed to get it done. It goes so fast when you talk about a 2-hour early out. So that was math. Any questions on the math?
I just think it's interesting how this is corresponding with our strategic plan and talk about vertical curriculum alignment, so everybody knows what's going on below and above. How focused you're becoming on, we know where our strengths are. We have the data to prove that where our weaknesses are. It seems, yeah, it might be, this has been work and it'll be work to build up those weaknesses. But at the same time, if you can be that focused, it seems like it'd be energizing as well, saying, we know what we have to work on. Let's work on and get going, and life's a lot easier. So I love to see timeframes and timelines, and those probably will be massaged and tweaked as it comes and goes. But I think it's exciting for us as a board, or us as parents. Mrs. Powers could probably tell you where a couple of my kids didn't fall in line with some of those, but anyways. I think it's great that you're working on it. I think it's great that the middle school and the high school are doing these things.
Thank you.